Tonight, we are learning new details about a murder-suicide in Coconut Creek that's getting national attention. The suspected shooter was 34-year-old Jean-Dominique Veloudre, a prominent doctor who we have featured in the past in Miami Proud for his work at Broward Health during the COVID pandemic.
Ring camera video shows SWAT officers evacuating a building after a call came in of possible gunshots fired inside of a townhome.
Can you please get dressed and exit the home?
He's accused of killing a 38-year-old woman before taking his own life. Police say they leave behind a toddler.
Police say 34-year-old Jean-Dominique Veloudre shot and killed his live-in girlfriend, 38-year-old Veloudre Petitval, and then turned the gun on himself.
January 3rd, 2026. For in the morning, Coconut Creek, Florida, a SWAT team surrounds a townhouse on Acadian Trail in the Paloma Lakes neighborhood. Loudspeakers cut through the darkness. Negotiators call out again and again. No response. Inside that home, Dr. Jean-Dominique Veloudre, a 34-year-old emergency medicine physician and Army National Guard officer, his partner, Veloudre Petitval, 38 years old, and their 2-year-old son. Hours pass. The loudspeakers go silent. Officers make the decision to breach. What they found inside would devastate community and leave a child without both parents. This is a story of two lives, one tragedy, and the questions that still haunt Coconut Creek. If you're watching this, hit that like button and subscribe. Stories like this need to be told. And your support helps us reach more people. Drop a comment. What state or country are you watching from?
Details about a murder-suicide in Coconut Creek that's getting national attention. The suspected shooter was 34-year-old Jean-Dominique Veloudre, a prominent doctor who we have featured in the past in Miami Proud for his work at Broward Health during the COVID pandemic. He's accused of killing a 38-year-old woman before taking his own life. Police say they leave behind a toddler. Broward Health released this statement that said, quote, "We are deeply saddened by the tragic loss of life reported this weekend, and our hearts go out to all those affected."
A quiet Coconut Creek neighborhood suddenly becoming a crime scene.
Neighbors say they had just seen a family together during the holidays, and then days later, police swarmed the street. And tonight, we're showing you the moment officers rushed in, guns drawn, and what happened next would devastate an entire community.
Let's get right out to local 10's Roy Ramos live at the scene with our exclusive top story. Roy?
Nicole and Calvin, this is an incident that really caught this community off guard, and I say that because, as you mentioned, they just saw this family out and about during the holidays with their children. Just days later, tragedy would strike. Sirens blaring as cell phone video showed Coconut Creek police inside the Paloma Lakes neighborhood after officers said they responded to reports of shots fired early Saturday morning.
I just saw a whole row of cops this entire street. It must have been the entire Coconut Creek department.
Neighbors shared this video of officers with their guns drawn and SWAT surrounding a home in the 4800 block of Acadian Trail. For hours, they said they could hear police telling the people inside to come out.
They were just calling his name just to come outside of the house that he was under arrest.
Days after the response, we spotted shell casings from flash bangs, a shattered front glass door, and what appeared to be walls riddled with bullet holes. The unit still blocked off with crime scene tape after investigators say they'd ultimately find 34-year-old Jean-Dominique Veloudre dead after they said he shot and killed the mother of their 2-year-old son, then turned the gun on himself. Friends of the victim identifying her as 38-year-old Veloudre Petitval.
I always saw him, the kids. They didn't move here like a long time ago. I think it was like a couple months ago.
We learned Veloudre is listed as a 2024 graduate of the Broward Health Graduate Medical Education Program in Emergency Medicine. While his LinkedIn page lists him as a chief resident for the hospital, Broward Health said while he completed a portion of his medical training within our health system, that training concluded in 2024, and he has had no affiliation with our organization since then. This as neighbors are still trying to grasp the unexpected tragedy that happened right next door to their homes.
We were sad, really, mainly for the little ones.
And just last month, a young man stepped into his dream job at North Broward Hospital as a doctor in the same town where he grew up, Pompano Beach. They call him Dr. JD. Now, in his own words, he shares his path to a career in medicine and how he plans to pay it forward.
I'm Jean-Dominique Veloudre. I am a first-year emergency medicine resident here in the ER department. My mother was a nurse. She was a nurse all her career. So I would see how she impacted people, how she impacted families, how she impacted the community, how hard she worked, how respected she was for her work. And I wanted to do something similar. Everybody around me supported. That's what I wanted to do. So in regards to like keeping me out of trouble from certain things, well, I went to high school right up the road at Deerfield Beach High School. And then I went to Florida State University, go Noles. And then I went to AUC, American University of the Caribbean. We did our first 2 years in St. Martin. I actually got a chance to go to England, did a semester in England, and did all my clinical rotations down in Miami with Jackson Health. I knew how long it was, what I needed to do to get into medical school, and I knew how long of a gap I was going to have, about 1.5 years or so. So I was like, you know, let me enlist as a medic in the Army, because I knew I wanted to be a provider for the Army anyway. I'm still in the Army National Guard now. It's a long road, right? It's a really long road. I would remember that there's people literally waiting for me to finish, you know, and not waiting me because they want anything from me, but because like I'd be the first doctor that they know. So it was like it was bigger than me. I was able to help patients during the pandemic. That's something that you know, that's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So it's like, you know, it's a little nerve-wracking, overwhelming at first, but when you really look at it from a grand scheme of things, you know, to be able to help people at this time, you know, to be able to be a provider at this time, it's really experienced that. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And I also want to be able to get to Deerfield High School, Deerfield Middle, you know, get in touch with kids who are interested in medicine and give them an exposure. If I could inspire one, you know, to come back and do what I'm doing, that's a win for me. To be able to serve in this community, that's everything for me. You know, to be able to have a patient come in and know that I'm from here, to be able to speak the language that they speak. I'm Haitian. You know, both my parents are Haitian immigrants. To be able to fluently speak to a patient that doesn't speak English very well, that means everything. I'm doing exactly what I wanted to do, and I get to do it exactly where I wanted to do it.
Needless to say, I'm going to get into this video and kind of address a few things that was brought to my attention, because I have not had the time to really sit down and go through what's been going on. But it was brought to my attention that there is Team JD and Team Veloudre that are pretty much bumping heads and having several disputes over this tragic situation. It is very unfortunate that this tragic took place, and at the time it did. I really am speechless about what took place. However, I really want people to know out there, both Team Veloudre and Team JD is grieving. Like, we are grieving really, really bad. So every time you guys are making comments, making statements about the other party, just know you just keep adding alcohol, vinegar, and, you know, the worst thing that you could think of to instill pain. That's what you keep doing to an open wound over and over and over and over again. That's what you keep doing. So I'm all for it, though. You know, one thing I can say, I am for talking about this situation for an educational standpoint, right? I am a clinician at heart. So at times I would put my clinician hat on and think about this tragedy from a research perspective. So to keep me from rambling on, you know, I did a few bulletin that I want to address, and maybe you could kind of see exactly what I'm talking about as far as how you could use this situation to educate kids, young adults that are dating, or are parents that have to learn how to co-parent. You could use this situation to talk about the phenomenon or correlations between people that are in the helping profession, right? So there was a few bulletins that I kind of highlighted from this situation just to kind of figure out, like, hey man, just from an awareness standpoint or just from even just acknowledging your own biases to figure out where you stand so that potentially it could help someone else in the future that may be experiencing stuff that were taking place in the past with these two. Now, I want to start off by saying, this video is to encourage positivity, because the statements that I'm hearing, the comments that are going back and forth, is creating separation, it's creating division, and it's creating hate in the midst of people grieving, right? And I could tell you now, for whoever that's not really close to the family and friends of Veloudre and JD, I could tell you now, like Team JD, like the people that are family of JD and that love JD and love his and love him like a brother, like a son, or like a friend. Team JD is about Team Veloudre. Like, we are in full support of Team Veloudre. We are in full support of the family and friends of Veloudre. Because anybody that was close enough to the family would know that nobody would have guessed this in a million years. I'm telling you personally, I could have a devil or somebody could have came to me and said, hey, you know what? And X amount of years, somebody would do X, Y, and Z, and it would be JD. And I would be like, nah, there's no way. Or it would be Veloudre that it happened to. I would have guessed I would gamble on, I would say, hey, you could take my mother's life. It won't happen, right? That's how confident that I was in those two. JD was a brother to me. Veloudre was a good friend to me. I got to know her, through JD and Jalen, and I got to know the family. They are great people, and it's unfortunate that this tragedy took place, but I can't help but to learn what it is to learn about this tragedy. So I kind of create a few bulletins that I want to kind of go over, because if you are going to write a narrative, again, like I said, I am all for it. But let's bring highlights to the facts, right? Let's kind of address the issue for what it is. Let's address issues and topics. Let's create topics around this tragedy to better educate or bring awareness to the people that may be experiencing some of these things. So one of the things that that came to my thought was, what is unhealthy love, or what the difference between obsessiveness and unhealthy love? And the best way I could put this is, like, if I purchase a car, right, and I love the car so much and it got stolen, and I find the person that stole my car in my car, based on my action, what will determine whether I love the car or I was too obsessive over the car, if that makes sense, right? So you could apply that however you want to apply it, right? So if I love my child and he's an adult, and I see this all the time given my profession as a clinician, where the adult child is calling their parents all the time to bail them out or give them money, or just, maybe they have a substance abuse issue. When do you as a parent feel like, hey, you know what, although I raised you, although I cared for you, although I did the best I can, this is getting too much to the point where I should, step back? When should we know, like, hey, this love isn't healthy, although I'm responsible for you, so on and so forth? How do I know when to step back? Or vice versa, if you're dating and somebody is stalking you, or if somebody want to know where you at all the time, and they want to call you all the time, or so on and so forth, because there's times where there's not conflict involved, but this person's behavior is somewhat unhealthy, or the person obsessiveness with that particular thing is unhealthy, right? So that's one thing that kind of sparked at me when I kind of thought about that situation. Another thing that was brought to my attention is, like, what is the phenomenon between emergency medicine and, early profession, right? So if I'm going to be a doctor, like, what is the phenomenon of like, being as an emergency doctor, and like what should you prepare for and how does that impact mental health, right? Because I know firsthand that, being an ER, like emergency doctor, like you're seeing death, you're seeing like all types of like major accident or the outcome of individuals from like major accidents and so on and so forth. So, this event kind of brought me closer to thinking about like, okay, what does that do to one's psyche after experiencing that over time, over and over and again, right? Or military, because we all know that, he was part of the military. So, what does that look like? And outside of the military or being an emergency doctor, but we have all our policemen, we have firefighters, we have all these people in these helping professions that kind of do similar tasks, and maybe their stress level is not always as high as one or the other, but it's equally important. Like, so me as a mobile responder, what is my psyche like knowing that somebody's coming and they're saying, hey, they want to kill themselves, and I have to evaluate them and I have to determine whether I need to Baker Act or sign them in voluntarily, or I need to maybe, just do other intervention, create a safety plan and so on and so forth. So what does that look like and what should we do, right? So those are the few things that, kind of was brought to my attention. So I know in the future, what to kind of look like, because sometimes it's not always black and white, and we can't always see the details to know exactly what to do and what not to do, especially when there's not violence at the time of conflict, right? But these are some of the things that was brought, whenever I, get a chance to put my clinician hat on, these are the things that I think about and how I would educate the public.
When officers entered that townhouse on Acadian Trail, they found no signs of forced entry, no intruders, just shell casings, bullet holes, and the remnants of flashbangs used during the breach. The evidence told a devastating story. An argument had erupted in front of the children. It escalated rapidly. Dr. Jean-Dominique shot Veloudre Petitval before turning the gun on himself. Their 2-year-old son was found unharmed and is now with family. 2 people dead, 1 child orphaned, a community searching for answers. So who were they? Dr. Jean-Dominique was born to Haitian immigrants and built a life dedicated to service. He graduated from Broward Health's emergency medicine program in 2024 as chief resident. Before that, he'd enlisted as an Army medic and worked his way up to battalion surgeon in the National Guard. He spoke Creole fluently so he could serve his community better. He worked the front lines during the pandemic. He mentored young people who wanted to pursue medicine. Colleagues described him as disciplined, private, and committed to helping others. Veloudre Petitval was warm, emotionally present, and devoted to her family. She wasn't focused on titles or professional recognition. Her world centered on her children and the relationships she nurtured. She and Foro had recently moved to the Paloma Lakes neighborhood, building what seemed like a stable life together. On the surface, they appeared balanced. His structure, her warmth, a partnership. But friends had started noticing cracks. Money problems. Arguments that became more frequent. Control issues rising to the surface. The kind of tension that builds quietly behind closed doors where no one else can see. There were no police reports. No public incidents. No emergency calls from neighbors reporting domestic disputes. This was a low-crime area. People didn't expect violence here, especially not from a decorated physician, an Army officer. But on January 3rd, something broke. Before we go further, drop a comment below. Have you ever witnessed warning signs in relationships that others missed? And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Hit that button and the notification bell. The aftermath has been painful. The Haitian American community is grieving 2 of their own. Social media erupted into debates, some defending Foro's years of service, others focusing on Veloudre's loss. People chose sides, Team JD versus Team Veloudre. Grief mixed with anger, confusion, and blame. Veloudre's funeral was filled with emotional tributes. A mother remembered, a life celebrated. Foro's colleagues mourned the loss of someone who had dedicated years to saving lives. And in the middle of it all, a 2-year-old child who will grow up with questions no one can fully answer. This case exposes something we don't talk about enough. High-achieving professionals can be suffering in ways no one sees. Careers in emergency medicine and the military come with intense pressure, long hours, life and death decisions, constant stress. And when you're the person everyone else turns to for help, asking for yourself feels impossible. Success on the outside doesn't mean stability at home. A prestigious career doesn't protect you from relationship breakdown. And no amount of education or status makes someone immune to violence. Friends noticed tension, but there were no clear red flags. No prior violence reported publicly. Just the kind of slow deterioration that happens when people stop communicating, when resentment builds, when problems go unaddressed. So what can we learn from this? First, check on people. Even the ones who seem like they have everything together. Especially them. Second, warning signs aren't always obvious. Increased arguments. Money stress. One partner trying to control the other. Emotional distance. These things matter, even when they seem small. Third, resources exist. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-799-7233. If you're struggling, or if you know someone who is, reach out. Fourth, speaking up can save lives. If you see someone in pain, don't assume they'll ask for help. Offer it. And fifth, we need to talk more openly about the pressures facing people in high-stress professions. Doctors, soldiers, first responders, they're human. They break. And we need to create spaces where they can admit that before it's too late. 2 people are gone. A child has lost both parents. A family is shattered. A community is asking how this could have happened. The truth is, it happened because pain was hidden. Because pressure built in silence. Because no one knew how bad things had become until it was too late. If this story impacted you, share this video. Someone in your life might need to hear this message. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think could have changed this outcome? Let's keep this conversation going. In Coconut Creek, Florida, on January 3rd, 2026, 2 lives ended and 1 began without parents. Their story is a reminder that we all have a responsibility to look closer, listen harder, and act sooner.